Hello and welcome to Super OK, where we try to do a decent enough job to entertain people with our opinions on video games. As always, my name is Dale and I am joined here by the absolutely amazing Mel. Mel, how are you today?
Hi, I am doing super fantastic today. How are you?
I just stubbed my goddamn toe and I'm still recovering from it. God, it freaking hurts.
Yeah.
It's which one? It's my middle toe on my left side. And it's going to be like, I'm going to be in pain for the entirety of this podcast.
I mean, it's kind of like hitting your funny bone, like your elbow, like funny bone thing, like on a corner. Same feeling.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad times. It's real bad times. I wonder if it's karma for something I did, or someone somewhere has cursed me or whatever.
No, I hope not.
One of my favorite curses against people is like, I hope they stub their toe, because it's just enough to like ruin an hour for them, but not enough to where it's like, oh, I hope you die or whatever. Like I'm not Gandalf. I can't take life or give it, you know?
It's true. Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's just a nice enough curse.
Yep, exactly. I was reading someone who got in an internet argument the other day, speaking of curses, and they wished the other person would, quote, have the type of day that they deserve.
Oh, that's lovely. I like that. I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty buck wild.
Just imagine going to the store and just being like, I hope that you have the day that you deserve.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. For most people, that's probably going to be a good day. But for some people, it might not be. Yeah, it's ridiculous. All right, this is a video game podcast, but we always like to start by talking about a highlight of our week, in which we describe something that exciting or nice or enlightening that has happened to us over the past week.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
I would love to. Non-cursed highlight, right? So my highlight is having a really decently cheap crab dinner last night. So there's a store called Fresh Time that has been, I guess they've just been selling like frozen snow leg crabs like on sale. Like it's always on sale. So I ended up getting like 4 or 5 clusters of like snow crab for like $12. It was so cheap.
Wow.
And I cooked it with some rice. I made like some vegetables that were like, I don't know, it cost me like $2 to make the vegetables with like, garlic and chilies and things like that.
Yeah.
And rice is always cheap. And I have this Thai sauce that I love eating crab with, which is like you're not going to like it because you don't like spicy things, but it's like this really tart, like lime, cilantro, garlic with Thai chili mix. And you typically eat it with seafood. And I got to have that last night with a little bit of butter, and it was so freaking good. Like all I had to do was like really steam the crab. I didn't do anything fancy with it. So it was just cheap, easy to make, and freaking delicious. And I was so happy because we hardly ever have crab dinners like in my home. So it was fantastic.
I'll be honest with you. I have never prepared crab. I have only ever purchased it from a restaurant. And so when you were like, we had a cheap crab dinner, I was like, I don't trust any restaurant that has a cheap crab dinner. Like, that sounds sketch as hell. But for some reason in my brain, I was like, oh man, making crab. Like, when you started talking about like, I went to the store and I bought one, I'm like, I'm not confident enough to do that. Like to cook crab, but it sounds like it was actually surprisingly easy.
Super easy. Yeah. Most of the time when you get like snow crabs, it's already pre-cooked. So what they'll do is that like when they harvest the crab, they'll like either steam it or boil it on the spot, and then they'll freeze it. So that way it's like, ready to go for anybody. So all you have to really do is like reheat it in the proper way. And that's it. So all I did was just like wash off the extra like ice on it, because sometimes it can be kind of salty. And then I threw it into a steamer pot and then just let it go. I know some people who will like put like they'll boil their crabs in like fancy water so it has like orange juice and like Cajun spices, and I'm like that's too much. Just steam it for me.
That's awesome. I also looked at Fresh Thyme, which I have never gone to a Fresh Thyme, but they're all over the place. And I thought it was going to be like one of your pricier grocery
like
stores.
Super bougie, yeah.
Based on the like presentation, like a Nino Salvaggio's, or like a, if you're not, like a Whole Foods, like that kind of thing.
Right.
Nope. Like you can get straight up 50 shrimp for $8 right now.
Yeah.
Like
it's really not bad.
That's a shit ton of shrimp. That might be too many shrimp.
Yeah. What's really nice about Fresh Thyme too is that they have like a really good variety of like organic foods there. So like it's not just, your typical like superstore type of place, like a Kroger or a we have Meijer here. I don't know. It could be a Piggly Wiggly for all I know, but like it's it's decent. It's a decent place.
Or something like that.
A Publix.
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome. That sounds great. You gotta love a nice seafood dinner.
For sure.
A succulent crab dinner. So my highlight of the week also has a little bit to do with the dinner, but my mother volunteers at her local library. And they were doing a fundraiser where, you go to like a Ram's Horn, which is just a family diner. And the Ram's Horn was like donating a portion of the proceeds in the evening. And so I rounded up the family and a few friends. Tubbs showed up, and we all went to Ram's Horn for dinner together. It was great. When we walked in, there's also like a basket that they were raffling off. And so Ange and I bought like $25 worth of tickets. Like not a lot. We were already planning on donating to the library, so why not, right? So later that evening, my mother calls to let me know that some kid won the basket. Great. I put it out of my mind. I didn't think I was going to win the basket anyway. And then 2 days ago at this point, she calls me and says, hey, turns out that kid did not come and get this basket, and it's been 2 weeks, and we want to get rid of this basket. So we redrew the name, and it's yours.
What?
And so I went to pick this basket up, and it's freaking huge. This is an audio medium, so forgive the crinkling. But
Holy
it's
shit.
Enormous.
That's a huge bag, and it has like that cellophane like wrapping around it too. That's fancy.
It's got all sorts of crazy shit in there. There's like nice candles. There were some like little moonshine liqueur creams. There's like easily $200 worth of chocolate in here. I ate last night. This was a problem. I ate a whole bag of chocolate covered almonds. They're dark chocolate, so Ange doesn't like them. So it wasn't like
so it's all you.
Yeah, it's all me. It's all me. There were like Cadbury like milk chocolate bars in there. There's too much shit in this basket is what I'm trying to say. So the fact that we won this absolutely ridiculous. It weighs like 30 pounds. It is a heavy basket. Ange and I don't ever win anything. Mostly because we're not like trying to.
Sure.
We don't like go out of our way to do that. In fact, we don't ever like play the lottery or buy scratch off tickets. But there were 4 scratch off tickets in there, and we won $15 on that too. So
what?
Yeah, we donated 25 to the library and got 15 back from the library. So thanks to the library.
Well, on top of that, you guys got $200 worth of chocolate. Like that's crazy.
A Clifford book. Like, let's go to the nieces. They're going to love it.
Cute.
There's a whole bunch of crazy stuff in here.
Yeah.
Puzzles and mittens and Valentine's Day garland. It was sweet. It was very cool.
Man, I mean, yeah, sure, you stubbed your toe earlier today, but like that basket, kind of worth it.
Oh, I mean, I suppose so. Yes. If I have to both pay $25 and stub my toe to get like a crazy basket full of chocolate, yeah, I'm going to do that every time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's balance in that, right?
Yes, there definitely is. So yeah, shout out to Ram's Horn, but also shout out to my local library. which if you have not supported your local library, I would highly recommend doing it.
Yeah, go.
It's one of my favorite public services. Speaking of public services, there are a bunch of other ones that are out there, like firefighters, which are great, but there's also the police. And if you want to know my opinion about it, we'll talk about it. But I can tell you for a fact that in 1988, NWA said, "Fuck the police." And I am assuming that they did this because they hadn't yet played Police Quest, which was a Sierra point-and-click adventure game that came out only a year before in 1987. Now, while this was by no means the first appearance of a cop in a video game, it was definitely the first to let you play as a traffic cop and then rise through the ranks by completing various investigations. It's actually a really cool game. If you have the chance to check it out on GOG, I recommend doing so. It's awesome. However, Police Quest is only one of the 525 different games that Wikipedia says feature the police. So today, we're going to talk about games where you play on one of the two sides of the law as either a cop or a criminal. I want to make sure that we give a very clear disclaimer at the beginning of this. We will not be discussing GTA in any way, shape, or form in this episode, since we are saving that for later, for reasons. Those are probably obvious. So let's start with a pretty fun question here. Would you rather play as a cop or as a robber? What side of the law are you on, Mel?
Oh God. If I had to pick one, I think I would for sure be a robber because I love stealing stuff in games, even though it's not a true heist game. Like sometimes if there's like an RPG game that allows you to just go into somebody's home and investigate their cupboards and like take whatever it is in their cupboards, I'm going to fucking do it. Like I don't even care if it's just cloth. I'm taking it for myself.
That's totally fair.
And plus, I think there's like a thrill to do something that you can't typically like do in real life, and that is like mostly commit crimes, right? Like you can't do that. So exploring and being able to do it in a video game is just, I don't know, it's kind of fun.
All right, now this is, I hate to put you on blast here, but I gotta know. Are you the type of person who when you go to another person's house for the first time, you're like opening the medicine cabinet and shit in the bathroom?
No, I would never do that in real life. I would never like invade somebody's privacy, but for sure in like a video game, like I'm going to go into every single room in your home, even though it's probably not appropriate.
So it's like fulfilling the fantasy of nosiness. I love that. I love that so much. Honestly, I like both in a video game, but I like them for a bunch of different reasons. That said, if I had to pick one like forever, like I can only ever pick games where I'm on the right side of the law or the wrong side of the law, I am definitely going robber. It opens up a bunch more gameplay options. But more than that, I love the trope of fighting back against like a corrupt dystopian government where they're sending cops after you and like that sort of shit. And so I couldn't give those games up, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm definitely going criminal in that case. So there are a bunch of different cop games out there. There's games where you play as a street cop, crime investigations. There's some games where you're like a dispatcher. I mean, there's a bunch of crazy shit. Which games where you play as a police, like what gameplay style are you drawn to? And I'll start here because I am a big fan of games where you do actual police work, right? I like games like Crackdown and Sleeping Dogs, but those are basically just action games where you happen to be playing as a police officer. It doesn't really matter that you're actually a cop. You're not like investigating stuff in those games so much, right? I think the most interesting thing for me in games where you play as a police officer is unraveling the puzzle of a crime.
Sure.
And so I like games that have a bit of mystery, games that let me be clever about it, solve a crime. Those draw me in. I haven't played Alan Wake 2 yet, but I'm very excited to do so because I hear it does this very well. I watched a IGN review of a game where the whole game is just the cork board with the red string.
Oh,
you know, and I'm like, and like when you put stuff in the right places, it unlocks additional clues that you then have to put in the right places. And connect with string and all. And I'm like super stoked to play that game. Like, so there's a bunch of this sort of stuff out there. And I absolutely love all of it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of in line with you. Like I love a good investigation game because it's really just a big puzzle game, right? Like it's not like you're playing small puzzles, and maybe there are like small puzzles to find the bigger clue type of thing in like investigation games, but like I love just being able to solve the mystery, right? Like, and I also feel like those games are very story driven, and there's a lot of like interesting character development that you see inside of those games, like Her Story. I don't know if you've ever played this game before, but like you play as you aren't necessarily an interrogator, but you watch these clips of somebody getting interrogated.
Okay.
And you're trying to figure out like what her deal is. And you're trying to piece together like, why is she like being investigated? Like she kind of seems like the victim, but is she really? So it's like things like that I'm just like so like drawn to because it's just interesting and it's really, like I said before, really good storytelling.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another one like this that you actually didn't mention, but you called out in your Paradise Killer.
So good.
You're like a weird future cop, and it's so amazing. Shout out to Brody for recommending it to me a million years ago.
Yeah.
But man, it's another one of those games where you're just like interrogating people, finding clues, solving crimes. It's really, really, they do it really well in that game.
I agree. And the music in that game too, the Vaporwave is just like so good.
The whole aesthetic is amazing. So outside of Paradise Killer, there's a bunch of games where you can play as a police officer. What are a few of your faves?
Oh man. Okay. So I know that I just talked about like loving investigation games, but I think my favorite game as a police officer is probably Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, where like you can be both the cop and the robber, but being the cop is way more fun because like you're chasing after like these really fast cars in your own like, speed cruiser, trying to capture them. But in order for you to capture them, you literally have to like hit them, like hit their car and have it like flip over and destroy their car. And that's you capturing the bad guy. And it is way more fun hitting people's car than it is driving away from getting hit by the car.
I feel like that would be true in real life too.
Well, I feel like for sure. But at the same time, I feel like cops need to be like safe about how they hit other people's cars. And it's never like, I mean, you see it in like a little bit more often than you had before, where like there's full on like shootouts, like in like the actual public. So having it all be in a video game is kind of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No one's gonna get hurt.
That is a great call out. I definitely went the exact opposite direction with this. I want to shout out Disco Elysium. It is so very, very good. If you haven't played it, you 100% should. But you play as a down on his luck police officer. And all I'll tell you is that it is possible to die in the first like 3 minutes of the game.
Yes.
So it's definitely worth playing. It's absolutely awesome. I probably should go back and play it again. I didn't actually end up finishing it.
Same.
Just because I was playing, I tried playing it on stream, and it's one of those games you should not play on stream. You should it's like a novel. You should sit down and just enjoy it like it's a good book. I think LA Noire was awesome for its time, even if when you go back and play it now, it's a little bit dated. It was just absolutely like press X to doubt stuff was like very cool. At the time, but now it all looks ridiculous. And then I also really, really liked Detroit Become Human. One of the characters that you play as in that game is a police officer. Actually, two of the characters you play in that game are police officers. And what I loved about it is how well you police changes the story drastically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think there was like one of the beginning scenes where like Connor, right? Like he's the AI, not the AI. He's like, well, he's kind of an AI. He's an AI like robot, right?
Yeah.
And he's like assisting the investigator. And there's one I think the crime scene is that you're looking for another robot that potentially could have committed the crime. And
Yep.
like you're trying to decide, do I side with my robot friends and let him go? Or do I side at being a good police officer and find him? And I think that's like so interesting. I think like that decision making kind of defines like sort of helps you define that character's like prerogative and like how he wants to go about being a cop essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really awesome moral dichotomy that they ask you to you to make that choice so early in the game.
I know.
Like before you even know who Connor is or the other cop that you're working with or any of that. And so it's really, really cool. It's you know, I think it was a little bit maligned by people for some of the gameplay choices. But man, it is real good.
Yeah.
So
like
let's step outside of the law a little bit here. When we think of like vigilante-esque games where it's a hero that is solving a mystery, like a Batman, that sort of thing, do we think that those belong in the crime genre?
Oh, I feel like people could definitely argue that like if you're a hero taking down like organized crime or stopping like drug cartels, like that could be associated with like fighting crime. But I feel like it's leaning more towards like you being a hero more so than like a crime game, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like in some of the Batman games, it just feels more like you're finding small clue. Like, do you even find clues? I don't even know. I think that you just like part of the storyline.
I mean, you sometimes go into like bat mode and find clues, you know, but it's like you looked at this painting and Batman says something about the painting and then a door unlocks.
Right. Yeah, you're not really like solving anything. You're just kind of following the storyline.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't really think so.
Yeah. All right. I agree with you, actually. I think it's a different sort of thing, right? If you're fighting on the side of the law, but sometimes you need to beat up or run from cops to do it, that's not a crime game, right? It's a different vibe. It's a different thing in and of itself. Also, they're almost always just action games with like a little bit of goofiness. So, you know, there's that.
Right.
But now let's fully cross over and become robbers. Specifically, we are going to be the type of criminal where we are straight up stealing shit. And then you wrote here, like your girl. Is that in reference to me, to you? Both of us?
Both of us.
All right,
we're going to be stealing all of our audience's girls.
Perfect. Stealing shit like your girl.
Yeah, we're going to steal your girl.
I thought it was like, oh, I'm here. It's your boy. You know, like that. Like me. Like I'm your girl. No. All right. That threw me off. I apologize. I'm going to reread the question. We've been doing this for a while. I'm new to this. All right. We're going to step across the side of the law, and we're going to be the type of criminal who is straight up stealing shit like your girl.
It's like your girl.
Man. I'm not doing a third take. Two-take Dale, that's what they call me. All right, how do we like to steal? Do we go in guns blazing? Are we stealthily sneaking around? What are your thoughts on this?
I don't like stealth games. It's like not my thing. I have very loud, they're like 3-year-old stomping feet when it comes to like running around. So I don't think that I could really do a stealthy stealing game. I have played them before and I'm just bad at it because cops just find me and then I have to like shoot my way out. And if you know me, I'm very open about how I love murdering things in games. So the idea of like murdering a whole bunch of cops so I can steal the crown jewels is amazing. Like Payday, when it first came out, it was great because before you got all of like your equipment and your skills, like that's the only way for you to go and steal stuff is to go into the jewelry store, grab all the stuff, and there's hordes of police officers that are coming at you. And I'm just like, no, these jewels are mine. You can't have them, and I'm going to be fucking rich. So don't stop me, and I will murder every single one of you to get out on my escape route. So good luck trying to catch me.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah. Payday is such a good call out for this sort of thing because it really gives you the option to like go in quiet and try and infiltrate. And I played Payday a little bit multiplayer with some friends, and I don't think there was a single heist that we tried to pull off where we were able to actually get into the bank or the jewelry store or whatever before someone had like already pulled out a gun and already had alerted the police. It was absolutely ridiculous. But it always was fun. I am much like you. I am a shotgun main. I like to kick in the front door, get the loot, and get out. It's part of why I love Turnip Boy Robs a Bank so much. I just finished that game a couple weeks ago here. And not only is the gameplay great, the story is absolutely hilarious, but it is also a roguelike in which every single run of the game starts by crashing a truck through the side of a bank.
What?
You literally drive the truck into the bank. And then when you like are leaving with all of your loot, you have to race back to the truck. And then the truck drives out the other side of the bank.
It's so goofy.
It's hilarious every single time. It's so good. So yeah, I am not a stealthy person. Here's the thing. I like trying stealth, but I am inherently bad at it.
For sure.
Friends have called me the human caps lock. And so like I am loud. I am not the type of person who does subterfuge well, and that just translates into my gameplay.
I feel that. I can understand that.
Yeah. So talking about heist games, criminal games, that sort of thing. Do we have favorites? I'm going to go first here. I already talked a little bit about Payday. I did think it was fun, even though we were bad at it. It was still a good time. I really enjoyed it. And then also, I want to call out Monaco, which was this game on, I want to say the Xbox 360 that I played. But it was like a top-down heist game. It had like a really cool like neon aesthetic to it. It was definitely like a stealthier game. But you and 4 friends could pick from like 8 or 9. I think it was 8 different character types. And then you'd like go like plan a heist, like looking down at this building, and inevitably shit would go pear-shaped. It would be really crazy. You'd be getting chased by security guards or cops or whatever. But it was really cool because the stealth part of it was all top down. And so it'd be like, you'd open a door and that would give you visibility into what was in the room. And you could see the cones of visibility that all of like security guards and cameras and all of that sort of shit had. And so it was like trying to like hide in the shadows or behind a thing or whatever, as you tried to like get in, get the loot, and get out. Really, really fun game. I just looked it up. It's actually on Steam, and it's not that expensive. So I might end up picking this up because
for sure.
It was a lot of fun.
I own this game and I've never actually played it, and I've been trying to find a group of people to play it with because like I don't think that it's a game that you can play solo. I think you kind of need to have people to play with.
Yeah, there's like a storyline, and in theory you could play it solo, but it is definitely one of those games where it's way more fun when you play it with multiple humans.
What happens when you get caught by the police? The security people like in the room, do they shoot at you? Do they
they trigger alarms, they'll shoot at you, try and capture you, like that sort of stuff.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Well, if you buy this game on Steam, well, we have tons of games that we both own and we probably just like need to sit and play together. We should do that. We should play some of these games.
One Thundo.
Yeah. But we're also looking for people to play games with, so be a part of our Discord and we can play these cool co-op games together.
Yes. I will take a break from getting my ass whooped by Ganon in Tekken 8 to play Monaco with anybody who drops in.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it a thing.
Yep. So what's your favorite criminal or heist game?
Yeah, I was like thinking like Untitled Goose Game as a criminal game because like you do so much like terrible things in that game, like steal people's stuff. You tie these kids' shoes together and like have them fall over. But does that count? I don't know if that really counts.
Here's the thing. I don't know if I would count it as a heist game, but that goose is definitely a fucking menace.
Yeah, he is a menace, and I love it so much.
He put the rake in the lake. That goose is crazy.
Steals all of the vegetables. Yeah, that's a really, really fun game. I enjoy honking at people too. Like, it's just purely annoying people is wonderful.
Top secret fetch time. I'll go first. I enjoy honking at people in real life. If I'm walking down the street and there's a bunch of drunk folks around, I might honk at them. It's always funny.
I love that. But I think that to like it, going a different route, Cyberpunk, I think is another great like criminal game. And I like the idea of like stealing cyberware and digital credits and having like this futuristic, like, it's more like futuristic crime, right? Like it's not something that has been explored before, or at least, things that like we aren't capable of doing right now. And the idea of like being able to like steal it or like try to, get the information that you want is interesting. And I love the idea of like within Cyberpunk that you have the ability to go in guns blazing if you truly wanted to, or like you could be very sneakily going through your heist by like infiltrating cameras or like the network in order to get the information that you want.
Yeah.
I'm also going to throw up Jet Set Radio, because I feel like you would love this, because they are technically criminals in a sense that they're trespassing over like places that they shouldn't be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're also graffitiing walls that they shouldn't be, and the cops are chasing them, right? Like you're kind of skating and doing tricks around town, and you're just like, no, coppers, like I'm gonna tag this wall.
Yeah, I agree. I would not call this a heist game, but I mean, they're definitely criminals. They're committing two of my favorite crimes: exploration and art. But yeah, I think that's a good call out. I also think Cyberpunk is a really solid call out. And Cyberpunk is cool because I talked about how I don't like stealth, right?
Sure.
Because it's a lot of like sneaking around and like that sort of shit. But Cyberpunk lets you do stealth in a very different way, where you can like be on the other side of a wall and then hack a camera, use that camera to hack a security panel, and like just like set the odds in your favor. As opposed to like, oh no, I've got to sneak and take out one guy, and I've got to sneak and take out another guy. Like, it lets you do crime in a very different, very cool way. So that's a really, really great call out.
Yeah, especially because like, as for us gamers, you and I who are terrible at sneaking, like I found the mechanics of like trying to access like this information way more fun than like running around and trying to avoid the view sight of an enemy. Mm-hmm. Like it's definitely a very different mechanic.
Yes.
And I for this game in general, like I liked exploring that. Like that was actually very interesting for me.
Yeah.
Versus sneaking.
Yeah, and the other part of that is because so much of like the digital surveillance shit is stuff that you can hack into. It's not like getting seen by a camera or by a turret isn't necessarily an automatic failure state.
Right.
Because you can like get seen by a camera and really quick hack into it and convert it over to your side. And now the alarm like doesn't go off or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like it gives you a couple seconds of you know how when a Wile E. Coyote runs off the side of a cliff and then he doesn't fall until he looks down? Like the animators call that coyote time. Like you've got a little bit of crime time in Cyberpunk, which I really like.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot more forgiving. That's a really cool call out.
I really hate when like you go into like one of those like sneaking around heist games and like the smallest thing like just ticks people off, right? Like and the alarms go off and you're like, man, you only saw me for a brief moment. Like, why is it so unforgiving?
Yes. Actually, I mean, that's a great segue into the next question here. What is the most bullshit digital crime that you have been convicted of? What were the repercussions?
Oh God. Trespassing in a store when it's about to close. Bethesda's like freaking notorious for this, where you're just like, and they yell at you to like get out, like you shouldn't be here, and then your bounty goes up if you stay there for a little bit too long.
Mhm.
But like sometimes like I'm there not knowing that it's closed because I'm trying to sell stuff and I'm selling my goods to this human being, like this NPC, and he's seeing me. He knows that I'm doing this exchange to him, and then he's like, "You need to get out of here." And I'm like, "Why? I just look what just happened?" And it was because I was there when the store closed, and he's yelling at me to get out, and I'm like, we just had an exchange. Why is my bounty going up? Because you like we just did. I gave you my business. What the heck?
I feel like someone in Bethesda has worked retail in the past, because I can confirm that back when I was working at Best Buy, there were nights where, I wish that I could have trespassed people, because they come in at like 5 minutes to close, and like we're cleaning and the music's already off, and they're like, "Oh, I know exactly what I want." And then they just walk around the DVD section, rip the DVD section. They walk around the DVD section for like 30 minutes, and they like pick up anime and they leave it in the comedy place. And I had already cleaned it. And it's just like, come on, just like, I have a house to go to, and I haven't eaten yet, and like all of this ridiculous shit. And so someone in Bethesda worked retail and realized, like, oh no, right at 8:00, that's when it's a crime to be in this building.
Oh my God. Yeah. I could totally see that. And that also like makes me wonder like why we haven't implemented a system where it's like, even for like restaurants, right? Like there's like the customer time, but then there's like an hour of employee time, right? Like the customer can be here up until a certain point, and then there's like one more hour for the employees to like do their cleaning if they need to, right?
Yeah.
Like and do the things like they're stocking if they need to.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
there is like when I was working at Best Buy, for instance, we would close at 9. I was scheduled until 10. But there was a bunch of stuff that I can't do while a customer is still in the store.
Sure.
I'm not going to vacuum, like, because you might walk on the floor that I just vacuumed, and I'm going to have to vacuum again.
Gotcha.
So it's just like and the other part of that is, if I finish all of my shit early, if I get done at like 9:30, 9:45, that's when I leave.
Okay.
So the fact that you're in the store at like 9:15 and I'm still waiting for you, you are literally putting a hold on my night. That said, I have seen a bunch of restaurants recently where they will put we close at 9, last order goes in at 8:30.
Yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot. I think
kitchen closes. Yep.
Yes, because I also, having been in the scenario, there have been a bunch of times where I'll walk into a restaurant and be like, "Oh man, when do they close?"
Yeah.
Like, am I an asshole for being here?
Right.
Like, oh, you close in 25 minutes, but you already are starting to like put stuff away because it's been a slow day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I being a dick by ordering food from you right now?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hate it.
I do too. And to be honest, like sometimes when I go into a restaurant and like I know that it's about to close, like, and if I'm really hungry, like I'll even ask. I'll be like, "Hey, like, is the kitchen still open? Like, do you have the capacity to like service me? Because if not, like I'll go somewhere else. Not a big deal. But like, you gotta let me know. Like, I want to have that communication with you, so I don't become that asshole."
Yeah, I cannot, as a larger white man, I cannot ask if they have the capacity to service me, but I will sometimes straight up ask, "Hey, if I order right now, am I going to be in it a dick? Like, is it?"
Yeah,
and
sure.
I have straight up had people be like, "Depends on what you want,"
Right.
And it's like, what about this? Yeah, man, that's just like, and I'm like, cool, no worries, and then I'll go somewhere else.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So. Yeah.
I feel so bad.
I mean, I feel bad, but I also at the same time am like, well, but you say you close at this time. Like, why don't you just put what your last order time is, like that sort of thing. But I get it. People want to go home. Like, work's a grind. that said, another thing that I hate is digital crime that I got convicted of, which in this case was at Baldur's Gate 3. I walked into a restricted zone. I didn't know it was a restricted zone, but I walked into one. I think it was in the circus, right? There was a guard there. There were two guards there. That's important. Because I was talking to one of the guards and I rolled great on my persuasion check and I successfully charmed one of them into believing I was supposed to be there. Huh. The dialogue options ended. It was back to me like being free to walk around, right? And then I took literally one step forward into the space and the other guard went into dialogue with me and I'm like, oh, weird that I also have to convince this guard, but whatever. And that guard just was like, you're in a restricted area, prepare to die. And then it dropped out of combat and that guard was immediately hostile to me, which also made the guard that I had just sweet talked hostile against me.
Oh
and
my
also
gosh.
The rest of the circus became hostile to me. And I was like, this is bullshit. I have taken one additional step and you also just saw your colleagues like let me know that I was cool to walk around.
Yeah.
Totally fucking bullshit. So I killed both of those guys. And then I saw that they had shit loot and realized it wasn't worth it to be aggroed to this whole circus, so I had to reload my save.
That's fair.
It was total bullshit. It's like, you need, Larian, if you're listening, and I know you're listening, you need to implement something where it's like, hey, man, the guard calls out to the other guards like, this guy's supposed to be here.
Right? Or at least like have the other guard like vouch for you or something to be like, yo, like I think this person must be here.
Yes.
Like you can add a cool mechanic of like press X to doubt, right? For the NPC if they truly wanted to.
Sure.
You know, or make that a roll. But like, damn, that's like too real. So that one guard is like too lawfully good.
Too trigger happy is what he was. He didn't even give me the option to talk to him. Like
really?
Like realistically, if I were the DM in that scenario, sorry about the multiple tangents, but I would, maybe the guard is doubtful that I'm supposed to be there.
Sure.
But I would like let the player at least try and talk their way out of it. Maybe give them advantage if the other guard is close and the guard vouches for them, right? Like there's a bunch of ways that you could rule this. None of them in my game would involve, oh yeah, this guy has an axe and wants to use it real bad.
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Baldur's Gate definitely suffers from that. There's a handful of other places like in that game where I can like imagine the same thing. You get through the front door because the guard's like, yeah, you can come in. And the moment that you're in that room, like everybody else is just like, no, you're going to die now.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. All right. Anyway, there is a lot of discussion around the difference between law and morality, with some people conflating the two. Do we think that video games, where breaking the law almost always equals bad, contributes to that belief? What do we think it would take for a game to implement both a morality system and a system of laws? Is it okay if I go first on this one?
Yeah, go for it.
Great, because I think this is an interesting question. It's a nuanced one. It's a tricky one. And I think it's why most games only implement one or the other, right?
Okay,
they either have a law system or they have like a Paragon Renegade, Fable-style morality, like that sort of thing. For a game to be able to do both and track things on both axes, they would need not only to track like good deeds and evil deeds and lawful deeds and unlawful deeds, but they would also need the characters in the world who are observing you to have their own morality and law systems, right?
Interesting.
Because realistically, it's only a crime if you get caught. And in most games where there's a law system, what ends up happening is someone witnessed you do that crime and then they call out for guards and then the guards are suddenly there and they're like blowing you up with tanks or whatever the hell. Right. So that would all need to happen. Now, while this seems like it's a wild thing to do, I'll be honest, I don't think that it would be that difficult for some AAA studio to implement a system that mimics this. Right? Like think about the Watch Dogs game series. Like in Watch Dogs, if you do a crime in the streets, civilians will all report you. They'll just report you immediately. But like, maybe they give all of the NPCs a hidden rating on how likely they are to call the cops or report a thing based on what the crime is. Maybe they'll just let a thing slide, right? Maybe that rating changes based on how severe the crime is. Like, personally, I know that if I see someone who is shoplifting food, I didn't see anything, right?
Fair.
Like that's just my code.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to report someone who's like driving drunk and is being reckless. And so maybe you just put in like a rating for every NPC for those crimes. And then you like, to use D&D terminology, you roll against that every time a crime is done, or maybe it escalates every time a crime is done, or that sort of thing. So that way it's like, okay, this guy stole some bread. I'm going to let that slide.
Right.
And he took some cheese. I'm still going to let that slide. And some fish. Okay, I'm reporting that guy. Right? Like that sort of thing. I think it would be a cool way to be able to mimic that. Like characters having morality and also a sense of lawfulness without necessarily having to go too deep into it. But what are your thoughts here?
That's a really I don't want to stop your train of thought, because like, you know, it's an interesting feature idea within a game, but like I'm trying to think of like, how would this affect your character in general? Like, what's the reason for us to be tracking this? Is it because like we want other people in the world to see us as people who are lawful, or and they would interact with us differently because of that, or like, you know, based on our like morality choices that we have, then they would interact with us differently? Is that kind of the...
Yeah, I think that would be like a really cool way to like show off, because not all criminals are evil.
Right.
Not all law-abiding citizens are good. Right. And I think it would be a really cool way for a game to track like your reputation amongst different like groups. Like if you're dealing with a group who is both evil and also criminals, like they're going to be less likely to trust you if you are a good criminal than if you are an evil criminal.
Gotcha.
You know, like that sort of thing. Like think about like Red Dead and like putting up your bandana. Right? Like the moment you put up your bandana, people are like, I don't trust this guy.
You're bad. Yeah.
Exactly.
For sure.
And that's like potentially bullshit. Like think about the Lone Ranger. Like that dude's rolling around with his bandana up all the time, not because he's out there doing nefarious shit, but just because he wants to protect its identity. Like, and having a game that is able to use that nuance to tell a nuanced story, I think would be really, really awesome.
That would be really cool. Because like I know there's some games out there that like kind of plays on the trope or like this particular idea of like, you know, what is lawful and like what is like moral, Orwell being one of them, because like what you are is a government agent that scours the internet and communication platforms to like figure out whether or not people are committing crimes and get punished for those crimes. So like one of the big thing is that there was a bombing that happens like in the city, and you're trying to figure out who that bomber is, right? And there are places in the game where you have to make a decision on like, do I let this person go? Because if I disclose their location, then something bad is going to happen to them. Or do I capture them, figure out where their location is, because it's the lawful thing to do. But this could mean that this person may get killed. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's like in a lot of games, like there's always that decision that is being made. Like it's forced upon you. But what you're saying is like, just make it so that it's more of like a system. So I feel like if we did it based upon like the choices that you make, that would be a really good way of implementing it. And then it kind of tracks kind of like how Mass Effect does it, right? Like where it kind of says like, oh, you're picking more of like the lawful thing, but does that mean it's like the moral thing? And then like it would just adjust, you know, your levels accordingly.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. Like so many of these games, it's linear. It's on a single line. And I would love to see it on like a gradient instead, where it's got multiple different axes for morality and law and that sort of thing. and your call out of Orwell is really cool. I think Papers, Please also does this really well.
Sure. Yeah.
Where it's like you are making a choice of like, do I make the moral choice or do I make the lawful choice?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And those games are always really interesting to me, but so often those games are games where you are trapped in a specific system because that's the way that it works. And the tension is, do I make a lawful or a good choice? And not like, this is what I have chosen for my character.
Right.
I'm thinking about like your Cyberpunks. I'm thinking about like your Assassin's Creeds, your Baldur's Gates. Like, there are characters who have individual reputations for you, and it's like maybe they value the morality more, maybe they value the law more. Let's play with that, right?
Yeah.
I feel like so many games leave so much on the table there.
For sure. Yeah, make that part of your character's reputation. I like that.
Yeah.
I really wish that a game would do something like that, because it would just make your own character's development more interesting.
Yeah. Like, I love your call out of Mass Effect, because like Mass Effect has Paragon and Renegade, and that's it, right? And Paragon is like lawful good, and Renegade is like chaotic evil, and there's no in between. It's like, if I'm a good person but I believe that Kai Lang deserves to die because Kai Lang sucks and deserves to die, like, I am penalized in my Paragon run for doing that, even though that might not be a lawful choice, but it's definitely the good choice.
For sure. Yeah, and I like in Mass Effect, like they kind of allow you to have different types of conversation choices based on like your Paragon or your Renegade status, but like it's just so minimal. I feel like in that game, where it's just like, okay, like you're just getting a little bit of different information out of them. The story still is very linear in the sense of like you're still trying to like save the world or whatever, but like you get there eventually.
I still love Mass Effect. I'm not saying that they did anything wrong here. I'm just saying that, like, hey, if you are BioWare and you're looking for ideas for the next series, like, having something that tracks both lawfulness and also morality would be a cool way to do that. And then your Garrus style character cares more about the law track, and your Jack style character cares more about the morality. Sort of thing,
Yeah. I'm very curious to know if like any of our listeners know of a game that has a very interesting morality and law system. Yeah. Because I'm only coming from like what I have played, and I'm sure there's tons of games out there that has something like this.
Yeah. I can think of a bunch of games that do one well, but I can't think of any that do both well. So if you've got one, drop it in the Discord. We would love to hear it. I'll play it. I definitely want to check it out if it exists out there. Cool. All right. Anything else? That was a long topic. That was a long question. All right. We're going to move on to our sponsored question here. This question is sponsored by Gun. You need money? Try Gun. Someone cuts you off in traffic? Use Gun to show them you mean business. Gun, the solution and cause of so many of our problems. I want to make something abundantly clear. We do not, like, we might be sponsored by, but we do not endorse Gun.
Nope.
Right? Gun, maybe not. Gun, not even once. That's what we're going with. All right. But they paid to be here. So many games that let you step outside of the law use the police as like an endless stream of enemies, where, in real life, so many metropolitan areas are having difficulty employing enough officers to provide safety to their citizens. So what do you think that your local city government could learn from these digital municipalities to boost their recruitment rates? What do you got here?
Oh my God. This is let's sigh for all of this, because it's never going to happen. Right. But I was thinking that like, as of right now, like cops don't have like a super great reputation, because a lot of things that they do are not necessarily the most intelligent, or they make poor decisions. So maybe we should start glorifying what it means to be a good and intelligent cop, right? Like, what does that get people, right? Like,
Yeah.
how is that going to affect our society? Let's glorify that. And maybe on top of that, paying cops well enough so that people who are who are going to get college degrees and they are intelligent can want to be cops or an investigator.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like a lot of people and the reputations of cops isn't super great because they all know that people who are making C's in high school who aren't going to college might just go into the police academy.
Yeah. That's a great call out. That is a great call out. I'm not saying all video game cops are smart, but I am saying that it would be cool to see, police, like the police being able to attract people to it as though it were like a viable career for
right. Yeah.
For an entire, that
because
sort of thing.
In some video games they are careers for people, right?
Yeah.
And it's cool to play and cool to investigate and fight crime.
Yep. And it's nobody in a video game, it's nobody's second choice.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to do this.
Yep. I wrote that I think unlimited funding would definitely help as long as it's spent in the right place,
Okay.
You got cops who have like tanks. That's not helping stuff.
Yeah.
Even though that happens in video games, don't take that. Like a lot of police precincts have taken that part of video games. Like that's the wrong one. But I think all of the places where I have been digitally arrested or shot to death have defunded their police forces because realistically, I've never seen a police officer in those games trying to resolve a domestic dispute where a mediator would be better, right? I've never seen a police officer in those games trying to provide services for the homeless where a social worker would be a better resource. The police in video games just get to be police. And that's kind of a cool thing for that. So I would say defunding the police and putting the jobs on the correct
other
places.
Services. Yeah,
I think that would help a lot. I think that, making sure that the police are well staffed so that way they can actually respond to emergencies would be
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
And getting rid of a lot of those ancillary jobs would probably be beneficial there. Man, this question is a lot less fun than I thought it was going to be.
I know. I was just thinking about Josh's job because he works in public safety technology. Yeah. And the stories that he tells me, I'm just like, man, all of these police precincts and these agencies needs to start fully optimizing and digitizing their records in general.
Yeah. Also, I'm just going to throw this out there. Maybe don't have your agency that polices the police be filled with police. Because that might help you get rid of some corrupt police officers. Because we know that some are out there. I'm not going to say a percentage or anything like that, but we know that some of that's out there. Maybe offering mental health services to the police because we know that they are more likely to commit suicide. They're more likely to commit domestic abuse.
Yeah.
That might be beneficial. And maybe don't glorify murder in real life. In researching this, both Mel and I ran across a game that is coming out that is a first-person shooter from the viewpoint of a police officer's body cam.
Oh, yeah.
And that seems in poor taste, but also man, we got this criminal off the streets is a lot different than, man, I put that criminal in the ground. And society definitely seems to glorify one of those more than the other.
Absolutely.
So cool ending to the episode where we just
feeling bleak a little bit, but you know.
So if you want to talk about any of that stuff, I guess you could join us in the Discord. It's a fun and cool place to hang out. I totally promise. You got anything else to say when it comes to police officers?
Oh man.
Video games, criminals.
You know who I think is a criminal?
Who?
Or a cop. Depends how you feel, but Dan, fuck him. Depends, however you're feeling, whatever that, Dan, whatever that you deserve, that's who you are.
I love it. I love it. I was going to make an NWA fuck the Dan joke, but
I like that.
But yours was better, I think, because it came so far out of left field. Why don't you tell the people where you can be found?
I am Melephant. You can find me on the Discord as Melifant. That's what it is. And on Blue Sky, I'm there too. Hang out.
Nice. I just made a Blue Sky post right before we recorded this because I was inspired by our conversation saying that ACAB, which is All Cops Are Bastards, includes Mr. Rossetti from the Animal Crossing games, because that guy is definitely a fucking cop.
Yeah. How dare you reset your game?
Fuck that guy. He's going to lecture me for like an hour because my power went out? Come on, man.
A battery died?
Come on. You suck. Anyway, I can also be found in the Discord and on Blue Sky as a 20-sided ninja. Check us out there. We've plugged the Discord a bunch, but it really is a cool place to go. What we haven't plugged a bunch is our Patreon. So first off, huge thank you to our Patreon subscribers. If you want to be a member of our Patreon, we would love to have you. One of the benefits is that you will periodically get me at like 2 a.m. remembering that I need to put all of the show notes up for the last 3 or 4 episodes. So you'll get like 6 different emails from Patreon saying like, hey, Dale finally did the thing that he was supposed to do. So if you're interested in that, maybe check out the Patreon. We couldn't do it without you, though. We really do appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
And as always, shout out to Zando, who is currently not feeling very well, for always editing the episodes. He's amazing. He's also in the Discord. And so if you like amazing people, check him out. Actually, speaking of being on the wrong side of the law, I don't know where this falls, but we've been doing some movie nights in the Discord recently where Zando has just like hopped into a channel and shown a movie that he watches with folks. I missed Jackass Forever and I'm salty about it, but he said he's willing to watch it again. So yeah, cool. You got anything else to say?
Nope.
Great. The only thing I'm going to say is if you are a local city official and you heard any cool ideas about the police in that last question, there's a whole movement around defunding the police and what that actually means as opposed to what people are sensationalizing it to, and it might be worth looking into. Because it's cool and it's way different than what it sounds like, where it's like end the police forever. That's not what it's about. So maybe do a juggle on that one.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna get off my soapbox now, though. I guess say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye,
have a great
everyone.
day.
I hope you have a super okay day. Thanks for listening and all that.
Bye.
Bye. Fuck Mr. Rossetti.